Hi everyone, and welcome to our module on study designs. Epidemiology studies are done to determine whether exposure or presence of a risk factor is associated with disease, and there are many real-world examples of how these types of studies are helpful in the practice of medicine. So, for example, we know that hypertension is associated with stroke, and that smoking can lead to lung cancer, and that exercise can lead to fewer heart attacks. And in certain parts of the country, we've found out that toxic waste has led to increased rates of leukemia. And by learning about all these associations, we're then able to focus on the exposure and limit it to try and decrease the rates of disease. So there are three basic types of studies that you need to know as a medical student that are done to determine the association of an exposure or a risk with disease. And these are the cross-sectional study, the case control study, and the prospective and retrospective cohort study. So we'll talk about all three of these in this module now. So the first type of study is called a cross-sectional study, and just like the name implies, it's a cross-section of a population. So we identify patients for a cross-sectional study based on being part of a group. For example, we might study New Yorkers or women or tall people. And what we do is we identify the frequency of disease and risk factors. So for example, how many New Yorkers have lung cancer and how many smoke. And a very important and high yield thing to know about cross-sectional studies is that they are just a snapshot in time. So we are not going to identify New Yorkers and follow them for 10 years. That would be a different type of study. In a cross-sectional study, we're just looking at the New Yorkers as they are right now and saying how many of them smoke, for example, or how many of them have cancer, for example. The main outcome of a cross-sectional study is prevalence of disease, prevalence of exposure, prevalence of risk factors. We're just trying to determine how much of it is out there right now. So for example, a cross-sectional study might determine that 50% of New Yorkers smoke and that 25% of New Yorkers have lung cancer. And you can sometimes have more than one group, so don't get confused if there are two groups and think it's some other type of study. So for example, a cross-sectional study might find that 50% of men have lung cancer and 25% of women have lung cancer. This is still just a snapshot in time of men and women. The groups aren't followed over time like years, so this isn't a cohort or a case control study. It's just a subgroup analysis in a cross-sectional study looking at men compared to women. And there are many important things that we can't determine from a cross-sectional study that we can determine from other types. So we can't find out how much smoking increases the risk of lung cancer. This is called a risk ratio, which we'll talk about later. To do that, we would need to identify smokers and non-smokers and follow them over time. We also can't determine the odds of getting lung cancer in smokers versus non-smokers because, once again, we would have to identify the two groups and follow them over time. This is called an odds ratio, and we'll talk about this later on in the module. So you're often asked on your boards to identify cross-sectional studies based on a description of what the researchers did in the study. So let me give you some examples of that. So suppose New Yorkers were surveyed to determine whether they smoke and whether they have a morning cough. The study found a smoking prevalence of 50%. Among responders, 25% reported morning cough. So a key thing here is to note the absence of a time period. They never said that they followed patients for 1 year or 2 years or 10 years. And so whenever you see the absence of a time period, you should recognize that this is just a snapshot in time, and that's typical for a cross-sectional study. So some likely questions might be, what type of study is this? It's cross-sectional, or what can be determined? And the answer is prevalence of disease only, not risk ratios and odd ratios. Let's look at another example. Using a national U.S. database, rates of lung cancer were determined among New Yorkers, Texans, and Californians. Lung cancer prevalence was 25% in New York, 30% in Texas, and 20% in California. The researchers concluded that living in Texas is associated with higher rates of cancer. So some key points here. Because there are different groups, this might confuse you and make you think that this is some type of case control or cohort study, but it's not. Note that there is a lack of a time frame, and really what they're showing is just a fancy description of disease prevalence. They're just showing you disease prevalence, a snapshot in time in 3 different states, New York, Texas, and California. Now, because the rates are highest in Texas, they say that Texas is associated with higher rates of lung cancer. That's true, but they can't say anything about the risk of living in Texas for lung cancer or the odds ratio of living in Texas for lung cancer. That would require studying patients over time, as we'll see in other types of epidemiology studies. Here's a third example of a cross-sectional study. Researchers discover a gene that they believe leads to development of diabetes. A sample of 1,000 patients is randomly selected. All patients are screened for the gene. Presence or absence of diabetes is determined from a patient questionnaire. It is determined that the gene is strongly associated with diabetes. So key points here, note the lack of a time frame. They're not following patients for years, so this makes it very likely it's a cross-sectional study. Note that the patients are not selected by disease or exposure, which is the way they're selected for cohort and case control studies. They're selected randomly. And then note again that this is really just a fancy snapshot in time. They're just grabbing 1,000 random patients and looking at what they look like right now in time. And that's what a cross-sectional study does. There's something called a case series, which is somewhat similar to a cross-sectional study. This is a purely descriptive study as well, and it's often used when a new disease is found with an unclear cause. So if there are bizarre cases of some type of febrile illness occurring throughout New Hampshire, for example, they may collect a bunch of the cases together and analyze the demographics and the symptoms, trying to look for clues of what could be causing the disease or how they could prevent it. Importantly, there's no control group. It's just a collection of cases, and it's just a description of what the cases look like. So now let's talk about cohort studies. And you should know that cohort studies represent some of the most powerful epidemiology evidence we have of exposures leading to disease. When you think about it, if you wanted to know whether smoking led to lung cancer, the obvious way to study it would be to find a group of smokers and find a group of non-smokers and follow them over time and see who got more cancer. This is an obvious and very powerful way to determine what causes disease, and this is what cohort studies do. So in a cohort study, we're going to compare a group with exposure to a group without. And it's very important that you remember that this is the way patients are identified. They are identified by exposure. So for example, if we wanted to know whether smoking causes lung cancer, we would identify patients based on whether they smoke or not. And we'll talk more about this later, but that's an important distinction between this and a case control study where we identify patients by disease. So once we've found our group of smokers and non-smokers, that's our cohort, we will decide by monitoring them over time whether exposure changes the likelihood of disease. Most cohort studies are what's called prospective. It means they identify patients with and without the exposure and monitor them going forward in time. Sometimes they're done retrospectively, so you can look back in time and see whether or not they had disease. Sometimes this is done if we identify smokers and go back through their charts and see whether they had pneumonia, for example, over the last 5 years. Prospective studies are always more powerful than retrospective studies because when you do a retrospective study, you're relying on the clinical evidence that was written down. So, for example, if you're trying to determine whether smokers get more pneumonia than non-smokers retrospectively, it's possible that the smoker had pneumonia and no one ever wrote it down in the chart and it wasn't recorded. So your retrospective study will miss that. If you do it prospectively, you can carefully watch them over time to see whether they get pneumonia, and it's more likely you won't miss things. So this is a schematic of how a cohort study is done. So we find our patients, and remember, we find them based on whether they are exposed or not exposed to the risk factor. So in the case of smokers, we would find a cohort of people who are a mixture of smokers and non-smokers. And then we follow them over time and see how many smokers get disease like cancer or don't, and how many unexposed non-smokers get disease or don't. The main outcome measure of a cohort study is a relative risk, which is defined by the risk ratio. And in another module, I talk in detail about how to calculate a risk ratio. But for our purposes here, just know that the risk ratio represents how much exposure increases the risk of disease. Once again, let me emphasize this very important point that in a cohort study, patients are identified by risk factor, for example, smoking or non-smoking. This is very different from a case control study where patients are identified by presence or absence of disease. So here's an example of the results you might get from a cohort study. You might find that 50% of smokers get lung cancer within 5 years, that 10% of non-smokers get lung cancer within 5 years. This would give you a risk ratio of 50 divided by 10 or 5. And this means that smokers are 5 times more likely to get lung cancer than non-smokers. So just like with the cross-sectional studies, let's go through some descriptions of cohort studies so you can learn to recognize them. Suppose a group of 100 New Yorkers who smoke were identified based on a screening questionnaire at a local hospital. These patients were compared to another group that reported no smoking. Both groups received follow-up surveys asking about development of lung cancer annually for the next 3 years. The prevalence of lung cancer was 25% among smokers and 5% among non-smokers. So here are some likely questions. What type of study is this? Well, the answer is it's a prospective cohort study. So how do I know that? Well, let's look at how they identified the patients. They identified them by whether they smoked or they didn't smoke. You see the word New Yorkers here, and that might confuse you. You might think maybe this is just a cross-sectional study of New Yorkers, but read more carefully. They were looking for smokers and non-smokers, and then they're following them over time, over 3 years. So this can't be a cross-sectional study. Because they identified patients by risk factors, you know it's a cohort study, and then they followed them going forward in time over 3 years, so you know it's a prospective cohort study. And what metric can we get out of this type of study? We can get a relative risk or a risk ratio. Here's another example. A group of 100 New Yorkers who smoke were identified based on a screening questionnaire at a local hospital. These patients were compared to another group that reported no smoking. Hospital records were analyzed going back 5 years for all patients. The prevalence of lung cancer was 25% among smokers and 5% among non-smokers. So likely questions, what type of study is this? Once again, it's a cohort study. They identified patients by smoking status, by exposure or risk factor, but this time it's retrospective because they went back in time. And once again, we can determine a relative risk or a risk ratio from this type of study. Cohort studies represent powerful epidemiological evidence of how much exposure and risk factors increase the risk of disease, but they have one big problem. They don't work with rare diseases. Imagine you found 100 smokers and 100 non-smokers and you followed them over a year. You might find 0 cases of lung cancer in both groups. Lung cancer is very rare, even among people who smoke. So we might suspect that smoking leads to lung cancer, but doing a study like this, a cohort study like this, would give us results that we can't rely on. The problem with cohort studies is that in rare diseases, you need lots of patients for a long period of time, and this is very time-consuming and expensive. So what we often do in rare diseases is do a different type of study called a case control. In this situation, we're going to find cases of lung cancer first, and then we're going to compare them to controls, which are cases without lung cancer. So a case control study compares a group of people with a disease to a group without, and then looks for exposure or risk factors among the two groups. It's like the opposite of a cohort study. Instead of identifying exposure and looking for disease, in this case, we're looking for disease first and then exposure. And this is the better study design for rare diseases. So here's an example of a case control study. You would find cases, these might be people with lung cancer, and your cases have to have a mixture of exposed and unexposed. You can't just identify smokers with lung cancer. You've got to have some smokers and some non-smokers. And then you've got to go and find a control group. And the control group also has to contain a mixture of smokers and non-smokers, exposed or unexposed patients. Once you've identified these two groups, then you compare the rates of exposure. And what you're looking to see is if there are higher rates of smoking among the cases versus the controls. The main outcome measure of a case control study is the odds ratio, and I talk about how to calculate this in a different module. You can't calculate a risk ratio from a case control study like you do for cohort studies because the results are not reliable, and I talk about that in much more detail in another module on quantifying risk. But an odds ratio represents the odds of disease in the exposed patients compared to the odds of disease in the unexposed. And it's a key point here to remember that case control studies identify patients by disease or no disease, and this makes them very different from cohort studies, and this is how you're going to recognize descriptions of case control studies in a question stem. So let's go through some examples so you can learn to recognize them. A group of 100 New Yorkers with lung cancer were identified based on a screening questionnaire at a local hospital. These patients were compared to another group that reported no lung cancer. Both groups were questioned about smoking status within the past 10 years. The prevalence of smoking was 25% among lung cancer patients and 5% among non-lung cancer patients. So likely questions, what type of study is this? Well, it's a case control. And the way you recognize that is by looking at how they found the patients. Patients were found by presence or absence of lung cancer. Lung cancer are cases, absence of lung cancers are controls. So this is a case control study. And what metric can you determine from this? It's an odds ratio because that's what we get from case control studies. Matching is an important concept to understand for case control studies. So when you select the control patients, that's called matching. You want to match the controls to the cases, and good matching is the key to getting good study results. You want the patients as close to the disease patients as possible, except for the presence or absence of disease. It's very important to know that matching reduces confounding. So confounding are variables like age or race or presence of comorbid conditions like diabetes and hypertension that could affect the results. If you match patients well, those potential confounders will be equally distributed among the cases and the control. So you want all potential confounders balanced between the two groups, and to do that, you need to do good matching. Let me just briefly mention randomized trials. Don't confuse these with case control studies. So in randomized trials, you may identify patients by disease, just like case control. For example, in a randomized trial of a drug for heart attack patients, patients may be identified by the presence of heart attack. But importantly, the exposure is going to be determined randomly. Those heart attack patients are going to be randomly assigned to either receive the drug or not. And that's a randomized trial, which is very different from a case control study. So case control studies versus cohorts are often confusing to keep straight for students. So let me just summarize the differences here. In a case control study, remember we identify patients by disease. The disease patients are the cases and the non-disease patients are the controls. In a cohort study, we identify patients by exposure to a risk factor like smoking. Case control studies give a result of an odds ratio, and cohort studies give a result of a relative risk. And if you have trouble remembering that, just look to the second to last letter of both types of studies. The second to last letter of case control studies is an O, and that O stands for odds ratio. The second to last letter of cohort studies is an R, and that R stands for relative risk, and that can help you remember the difference. So it's very high yield to know how to identify the type of study from a description. So let's go over some of the steps we went through to identify study types. So first, ask yourself how they identify the patients. In a cross-sectional study, patients are identified by location or group, like for example, New Yorkers. In a cohort study, they're identified by exposure or risk factor, like smoking status. And in a case control study, they're identified by disease, like presence or absence of lung cancer. Next, pay attention to the time period of the study. So in cross-sectional studies, there's no time period. It's just a snapshot in time. In retrospective studies, we look backward through time for disease or exposure. And in prospective studies, we look forward in time by following patients to see whether they become exposed or develop disease. And then finally, don't forget the different numbers that you can determine from each studies type. So in cross-sectional studies, all you can get is prevalence of disease, possibly by different groups. In a cohort study, you get a relative risk, and remember, the next to last letter of cohort is R for relative risk. In case control studies, you get an odds ratio, and remember, the next to last letter in case control is an O for odds ratio. And that concludes our module on study designs.